Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, Imperial Dane. We have here today a special little treat, a 4 vs 4 on Route N13. And while I don't regularly do 4 vs 4 games as they don't quite fit into my superhuman abilities of being able to actually follow 8 players across a very large map, I don't really do them, plus I don't really feel they have the same sort of battlefield flow. But I received a rather polite and very well thought out email, and so I decided why not just in this case, plus it was in fact rather short, which does somewhat mitigate the fact that I have to try and keep track of so much during an entire fight. So 4 vs 4 on Route N13, peculiar little map. In the center we have a crossroads, which is the number one spot for all fighting on this map. We have a small mansion or villa or something else in the north, which is less fought over in fact, and then we have this southern point, which is somewhat fought over as well, although again the central point is the main point of clashing between the two sides. Plenty of all sorts of points, although only of low yield. Anyhow, let's look at the players. As the US 5th Corps, we have the Mr. Dibidus, Outrage, Dirtiger, and Krebs Goho, it seems. Question if it's the real Krebs Goho or just someone pretending to be him. On the eastern side, as Army Group B of the Wehrmacht, we have Battery. I'm not really going to bother with pronouncing the rest. Aragon, awfully original. Also up here we have Yeehaw, Texas style baby, clearly an intellectual, so we'll just refer to him as Yeehaw. And we have here Samak. So there you go, 5th Corps versus Army Group B. Let's see how this goes. We see barracks going up for more or less everyone, except for Outrage, who seems to be going for weapon support center. Mr. Krebs deciding he's going to hang out in the south. And of course, in team games, some players have a tendency of assuming roles like I'll only do support weapons, which is alright if you can actually work together with other people. And of course, if the rest do make up for it, if you have a large majority who only decide to sit back and not really do anything while the others have to do all the fighting, you'll end up heavily lopsided and beaten down. It's a rather important thing to note. And what do we see? Schwimmwagen for both sides, I do believe. And yes, indeed, no Kettenkrauts here. Pioneers rushing in as well behind the Schwimmwagen, although not as fast. Panzer Grenadiers on the field, further teams as well. Wehrmacht quarters, nothing excitingly new from the Wehrmacht commanders, nor certainly from the Panzer Grenadiers as well, as they are continually marching outwards. Schwimmwagen moving ahead to secure, and we see that Samak has gone tank destroyer already, or tank hunter I do believe, since he has laid down mines, as the Schwimmwagen with under tank hunter doctrine can lay down mines, although they cost 35 munitions, so they are a bit expensive. Panzer Grenadiers clashing with engineers, not a good situation for the engineers, although why the Panzer Grenadiers completely ignore them instead of dealing with them, I'm not entirely sure. And now they seem to be moving in once more to actually try and deal with something. Further Panzer Grenadiers arriving on the field. Engineers suppressed, caught out in the negative cover on the road, making them very, very excellent targets. We see a small force of riflemen accompanied by a 30 caliber heavy machine gun moving in. Water cooled, of course. And a small firefight here as the Panzer Grenadiers are taking hold in this, I don't know what you'd call it, but low wall I suppose. And we see the heavy machine guns setting up right out in the open, and the Panzer Grenadiers vacating their cover and getting suppressed, which might force them to retreat, in particular now as the riflemen are taking advantage of this. Schwimmwagen from Aragon to the rescue, although I'm not entirely sure how much use that will do. Riflemen taking some damage. One man down already. Panzer Grenadier is holding out nicely, although Schwimwagen for some reason moving in unsupported, getting surrounded, and is quickly going to get knocked out, I suspect. And we see the Panzer Grenadiers pulling out since they decide to hang around, not move in for the kill. And of course these engineers who were not killed earlier are still in there, preventing any usage of this silo for cover protection and area denial. We see Krebs cohort already pressing close to the base of Battery, who is holding out down here. Not a lot of troops. In fact, they're quite spread out and not really doing anything good, being easy target for American troops. And we see a bit of a lull as a Kampfgruppe company is going up. We see Battery is going for the ever wonderful armored car rush, seemingly forgetting that it's always better to actually use some infantry to defeat the enemy instead.
Enemy unit down.
Won't be doing much for some time. Already the German forces in the center have been forcefully sent back, and the crossroads is now securely in American hands. And they're in fact securing territory on the what would normally be the German half of the map, since they don't even have access to the northern area and the mansion in there. Certainly tragic. Sniper duels might be in place, in fact. Schwimwagen rushing here to try and uncover. Sniper shooting and missing. American sniper shooting and missing. Who will win this mouse and cat game? Riflemen going down. German sniper slowly pulling out. Then advancing again. We see the Schwimwagen once more trying to lure out something, but not entirely sure there's any coordination, as the sniper's not far ahead to actually use that to his advantage.
Enemy unit down.
And we see Panzer Grenadiers moving across negative cover across the open road. Right targets for the Americans, and we also see further riflemen moving in. The Panzer Grenadiers really getting beaten here. Heavy losses and heavy damage, forcing them into a full rout. And now we see the rifleman moving in from the south. Mr. Yeha apparently not pulling back his sniper, apparently figuring his sniper
Enemy unit
can
down.
take bullets to the gut. He cannot, and instead drops to the ground in writhing pain. Does not seem to be the greatest of the wehrmacht that has been sent in here. But we see a mortar half-track, and we see the batteries armored cars have forced back Krebs for at least now, although he does not seem to be pushing the advantage. And will we see if he falls into the pitfall that armored cars might work as tanks and using them on the front? Yes, indeed, running them right in front of the riflemen, opening them up for quite a lot of damage. Panzer Grenadiers moving in unsupported, getting torn apart by a solid American position on this hill. Not doing well for Battery. Dirty Jar holding the church area. No actual movements towards the north here, it seems, or at least nothing solid. A two-man rifleman team running around still. Still in a pioneer team. And we see the mortar half-track trying to slowly make its way through the enemy lines, but no greater progress, no infantry for any of the Wehrmacht commanders, it seems, except some few Volksgrenadiers, but nothing actually to carry the fight and protect the support weapons. Not good, and that certainly means that the Panzer Grenadier commanders are forced to do most of the fighting, which is certainly not helpful, since Mr. Battery isn't really using Panzer Grenadiers either, and in fact losing them at a prodigious rate. Will this? Nope. Panzer Grenadier team down, only an armored car to hold the line, blasting away. Schwimwagen standing out in the open, presenting itself as a nice fat target. American push in the center, Volksgrenadiers holding the line. Jeeps on the move as well, hunting down another sniper, I suspect, from the Wehrmacht. Again, nothing to actually protect them, so it's certainly not looking good. Sniper dead. We see the Volksgrenadiers now forced to pull back as well. Heavy machine gun moving in to provide suppression on the Panzer Grenadiers, who are forced to pull back and hold their counterattack. MG42 has been set up in this building, but will only actually be able to hold anyone moving into this area. And so won't be actually able to help any sort of advance into here and towards the crossroads, and of course there won't be a lot of infantry to actually carry the attack, since the only ones are the Panzer Grenadiers and they were forced to retreat. So the Americans may have ample time to quickly reinforce this area and once more set up a blocking position, preventing any further access from the German forces of Army Group B. Krebs cohort continuing the fight in the south, now having called upon the expertise of the 101st Airborne Infantry Division. Nasty buggers. And we see Volksgrenadiers with MP40 supported by a armored car. MP40s, not really the only thing you should have. I think certainly not when you only have one Volksgrenadier team. Not looking up, and we see a lot of armored cars. What we don't see is the Schwimmwagen being used, or the Panzer Grenadiers repairing some of those armored cars, or perhaps some more dedicated repair crews being called in. Volksgrenadiers just charging ahead, not using cover. Oh dear, do these German commanders not know of cover? This is terrible. MG42 quickly pinning down some riflemen, and things are certainly not looking good. Me suspecting these might either be some newcomers, or they have become too content on larger team games, since there's a tendency among some commanders, I feel, to become complacent, not really aggressive, and basically bit limp in their action strategies and tactics, since they aren't really forced to actually sustain their own forces and rather count on others to bail them out if something goes wrong, which is a really bad idea. So we end up with things like these, where they're already on the verge of defeat only 10 minutes into the game, despite the fact there are 4 forces of the combined wehrmacht on the field. A bit disgraceful, I dare say, and really they ought to have been a bit more aggressive and not so complacent on support weapons, and not spamming snipers over and over again. Another sniper dies. Quite the waste of such precious troops. And we see armored cars not doing anything, apparently expecting some sort of American attack, then hoping to force them out. And what do we see or hear? Artillery raining in on the German forward position here at this small roadside house, taking several howitzer shots, but only one man goes down. Rage communicating to his team what doctrine he has gone, which is certainly not a bad idea. Always be able to communicate with the team. And we also see a T-17, so certainly not looking up for the Germans, who do have a Marder-free tank hunter in the field. And although Marders aren't exactly the best anti-armored car weapon, since the armored car is much faster and if caught on the wrong position can be knocked out. Marder missing, and the T-17 quickly getting beyond the range of the Marder, which apparently decides to situate itself at this extreme end of the range instead of a bit closer, and so taking further advantage of it. The southern point being cut off once again. Mr. Battiray not really doing anything to hold this point. And Krebs cohort playing around with him, now having numerous recoilless rifle-equipped airborne to hold his armored cars at bay. And the situation here is looking to deteriorate even further, if that is possible. The only thing that seems to be holding them at bay is this courageous and valiant mortar half-track raining death from above onto the American positions and actually causing some kills. Still no infantry from either Wehrmacht commander. Nothing beyond a Wehrmacht quarter. In fact, no, we see a Sturm armory. Perhaps we might see a Puma, perhaps we might see a Stück Geschützwagen Nebelwerfer or an officer, if we're really unfortunate.